Alright class, so looking at the diencephalon and the brainstem region. So this is the diencephalon and this whole thing is a brainstem. We do see the pituitary gland. So this, the orange gland here is pituitary. And do you see the white nerves here? These are your cranial nerve 4, trochlear nerve. Okay, so this model, I might use this diagram to quiz you on the trochlear nerve and the pituitary gland. Moving on, so this is the brain ventricle model. Ventricles are hollow spaces in the brain. So hollow spaces in the brain, they are called ventricles. Now this dolphin-like model represent the brain ventricles. These two are lateral ventricles. This is the third ventricle. This this duct that connects, that comes down from the third ventricle, this is called cerebral aqueduct. And then this portion is the fourth ventricle. So let's review. We have two lateral ventricles. Then we have a third ventricle. The tube that connects the third ventricle to the fourth ventricle is called cerebral aqueduct. Now moving on to spinal cord. So this is a cross section of a spinal cord. And there are a few things that we need to know. In case of spinal cord, we have outer white matter and deep gray matter. So this is white matter and the deep portion, the deeper part is the gray matter. Okay, looking at the gray matter, we need to learn two things. First, this part is the anterior horn, and then this part and this part, these are posterior horns. So we have two anterior horn and two posterior horns. Okay, so anterior and posterior horns. Okay, so read the question carefully. If it points somewhere in the middle and asks you to ID structure, I'm probably pointing at the gray matter. But if I specifically point at the horns and ask you ID structure, you should pick anterior horn or posterior horn depending on where it's pointing at. All right. Few other things. Do you see the swollen area numbered 24 right here? I should change color. This swollen area here is called posterior root ganglion or dorsal root ganglion. I'll just put dorsal root ganglion here. Okay. What else? So this is a larger model of the spinal cord and we do see a lot here. Now this is the posterior side as we see the spine of the vertebrae, the bone, the spine of the vertebra, and this is the anterior side. So this is posterior, this is anterior. We do see the spinal cord, and here we will try to identify the spinal meninges, which are the coverings of the spinal cord, right? Okay, first we do see the white matter. So I'm putting a cross on the white matter. So this is all white matter, right? We also see the gray matter, and you can identify this and this posterior horn. So these I'll label here posterior horn. Then obviously these would be anterior horns, right? So let's label these as anterior horn. Okay, let me see if I can change color. That would be nice. No, I can't. Anyway, now look carefully. This layer, do you see the white layer? Actually, let's move on to this diagram. This will be better. Now, do you see the white layer, the outer layer that says number 25, this layer? This is a spinal pia mater. That's called what? Pia mater. Remember, pia mater actually sticks to the surface of the spinal cord. It's made up of areolar connective tissue. It forms a protective covering over the spinal cord. Now then you have this space, right? And all this space, it kind of wraps around. This space is called subarachnoid space. Subarachnoid space. Good. Superficial to that, if you look here, do you see this layer? I'm not drawing all the way, but just this layer. That is called arachnoid matter. And you will learn more about this in lecture, okay? Arachnoid matter. And then superficial to that, where you see number 9. Do you see number 9? This layer. This layer. This is the dura mater. Dura mater. Another important thing here. Do you see all the fat layers here? A lot of fat, 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 fat. The layer filled with fat is called epidural space. Epidural space. And this is where we females get the epidural shot during childbirth, during labor actually. So that's epidural space. This space is filled with fat. So that's pretty much it about my lecture on spinal cord. This lecture is related to lab mini lectures. Again, you will learn everything in depth in your lecture videos.